Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, a channel all about skateboarding, where sometimes I answer your questions from the series Ask Rad Rat. You can go to radratvideo.com and submit your own questions. That's what all these people did. You can see all the questions we're going to be talking about there. Yeah, over there. So let's get to it. The first question is from Yerky, who asks, Dear Rad Rat, how much does Ollie height affect the amount of air someone can get on vert? When a skater gets big air on a vert ramp, is it mainly due to their Ollie height or a combo of speed and technique? The Ollie itself has very little to do with it. It's almost entirely speed and technique. I have not skated vert, like getting up in the air. I've skated on vert ramps, but not like, doing airs and stuff. But I had a Tony Hawk Trick Tips disc back in the day, and he referred to doing an Ollie on vert more like bouncing your wheels off the coping. You're not snapping the tail and getting a lot of air. If you did, you're going up like this, you're on vert, you pop the tail, you're just pushing away from the wall, and you're more likely to fall to flat. So it's not about that at all. The only way it would correlate is the more you can pump, the more speed that you get. And that's it's not an Ollie, but you are kind of like jumping a bit as you reach the transition to unweight, so you kind of get some more speed from it. But yeah, that's a much different thing than actually popping. So the next question is from Oki Klampi from Finland. He asks if this trick has ever been done before. He does a very thorough description of it, but he also sent a clip, so I'm just going to show that to you. So he says, you can see in the video that it doesn't pop, and it arguably isn't even a pressure flip, as the board only starts to shove it when I pull my back foot up. That being said, the trick isn't impressive at all, and its only real use for it would be to give a really BS letter in a game of skate. Although I think it would be possible to upgrade it to a varial flip by tweaking the technique. Yeah, I'm going to say you're probably not the first one to do that, because the frontside version was pretty popular. I used to go to this French skate forum, and these guys would do this crazy technical stuff. And so they would do kind of the same thing. They would start not on the bolts like that, but they would start more on the tail, pop it this way, and then spin it around frontside halfway. And they call that a bubble. And there was a flip version where instead of doing just like that quarter flip as it spins back, it would do a whole flip. So that frontside one I've definitely seen. The backside one I haven't seen, but I'm pretty sure it's been done. It's pretty cool. It would be cool to add in that flip and make something of it. But at that point, you might as well do it like on the tail, start it like an actual normal pressure flip, and then kind of do it. That way you can get some more height out of it instead of just pulling it off the ground. Like, that's more of a not a test, but like a experiment than it is like a trick that you could do places, All right. The next trick is from MallGrabber69, who says, if you did a 360 shove it, but your body also spun 360 as well in the same direction, did you do a big spin, 360 Ollie, or something gross? I would go with something gross if those are the choices. I think it would probably it would just be like a no-footed 360. The board spins 360, you spin 360, you're going roughly the same speed because you start in the same place and end at the same place. But you just didn't really like pull it around in the air. You just spun the board and then jumped. That said, I think that would be a lot harder than a 360, because with that, you actually pop and hold it with you, as opposed to trying to spin it and then turn at the same time. So it would be an uglier and worse version of a 360 that would also be harder. Okay, the next question is from Rusty Cage, who says, Hi, Mr. Rat. I have a non-related to skateboarding but very important question. What is your favorite alcoholic beverage? For me, it is definitely whiskey. I'm a big fan. I get an old-fashioned when I'm out somewhere fancy. It's kind of the go-to for me. Big fan of that. He also says, I would love to listen to your podcast if you decide one, and I and many other brothers would love to hear you talk about life, cool stories, or just anything, even if it's not skate related. So I have had an idea for a while to do like drink and play a game or something like that, and I haven't done it. because I'm not sure the right format to go about doing it. Like, would I do it live when I'm playing a game and drinking? Do I just drink while I make a video? Do I answer questions? Well, like, I'm not sure exactly what I would do with it, but I think that would be a fun way to take, like, a fun side series. Like, not I'm just going to be drunk every time I make something for the channel, but as like a way to do something different. So, there's only so many ways I can play Pro Skater 2. If I flip the controls or if I do zero stats, like, there's only so many things I can do with it. But if I replay some stuff while having a drink and it's just more chilled, that could be kind of a fun way to do it. So I have been thinking about doing that. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but we will see. I do have some thoughts about that. All right. The next question is from Matthias, who says, if you're at a skate park, we'll say, and you're approaching a rail, you approach it from the very end, neither front side or back side. You pop and you do a 50-50, right to the end, pop off, direct straight line. Is that neither front side or back side? Yeah, and that's definitely a thing, and it can get more complicated. So if it's on a box, it's just, you'd probably call it the one that it looks like, you know. If you're straight on, you do like a crooked grind. You didn't over crook from the opposite side. You're just doing a crooked grind, you know. On a rail, though, it can be a little bit more complicated because, you know, you've got that, but you could also, if you spin into it, was that a board slide? Was it a lip slide? Was that a Smith? Was that a feeble? And that kind of thing can be complicated. And it's just kind of up to you to decide which one. If it were me, I'd probably say the one that is not as hard, you know, to like take credit for doing a harder trick, even though you did it straight on, which made it a little bit easier. It's just one of those things where, like, there's not a definitive perfect way to describe it. There's no third direction. There's not front side, back side, and straight. We don't really need that. It's not a very common situation where you're going to go exactly perfectly straight. You'll go at enough of an angle where you can confidently call it one way or the other. All right, our last question of the day is from Michael, who says, I am wondering why people call impossibles when you do not spin it around your foot. It's more like a 360 shove with one foot on the board the whole time instead of scooping it and spinning it. I'm seeing it a lot in videos and at Battle at the Barracks. What's the deal? Love your channel and keep up the awesome work. Okay, so there's a couple things to that. For me, skate park floors make it a lot harder. So, you know, that's one of my go-to tricks. I love it. I do it all the time. If I do it at a tennis court, it's pretty easy because as you start to like push down on the tail, it'll pivot and you can kind of pop it straight. The way that I do it, I don't like when the board just does one smooth spin. I like it to start popping this way and then to end spinning flat. It's like pop it straight backwards, but then end it flat. And I think that is a lot cooler because the board starts to move and you have to change it as you go. It's not just your board happens to be touching it. But on a slick, polished concrete skate park floor, when you start that pop, the tail or the back truck wants to start to slide, and it's a lot harder. Like, I have to, if I do it at the skate park, I pop them absolutely straight back. I don't have to do that on normal pavement. I can do, you know, a little bit of a shove, but pop it a lot. At a skate park, you have to pop it straight up and then turn it into the impossible in the air. It's a lot harder. And I've heard the ground there is specifically like extra slick and can make it extra difficult. So, you know, someone who can do an impossible well out in the street somewhere, if you just say, hey, do that exact thing you just did on this polished ground, it's going to be more like a 360 shove it, unless they've had time to adapt it. So I think that's happening. Also, you know, if you're just trying to match it, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. And I think there's something to be said for that too. You know, I'm just gonna, if I mess it up, the board's still going to do the thing and my foot touches it somewhat. If you mess up an impossible like mine, you bail. You know, there's no world where you can catch it halfway through and fix it. So there might be some strategy to that, but I think for the most part, it's just the type of flooring makes it a lot more difficult. So that is it for this time. If you thought of any questions while you were watching, go to radratvideo.com. There's a form on the homepage. You can submit your own question, and I may answer it in a future video. Thanks for hanging out.